the collateral damage. Everyone remembers Call Me By Your Name for the romance between Elio and Oliver, but there's a third person in this story people don't talk about enough. Marcia. Elio is falling for Oliver, but he's also sleeping with Marcia. He isn't using her cynically. There's real affection there, but she's also a shield. Every time the intensity with Oliver becomes too much, Elio retreats to Marcia because she's safe. She's the version of himself that makes sense to everyone else. Marcia can feel she doesn't have all of him. She registers the distance between them even when they're physically close. When Oliver leaves and Elio is destroyed, Marcia gently steps back. Not with anger, but with understanding. The triangle resolves not with dramatic confrontation, but with quiet, devastating acceptance. Marcia becomes the person who loved someone still learning who he was capable of loving. The prisoner. Brokeback Mountain's love triangle might be the most painful one in cinema because every single person in it loses everything. Ennis and Jack fall in love on that mountain. Then they go back to their separate lives, and Ennis marries Alma because that's what men do. Alma loves Ennis completely and has no idea she's married to a man whose heart belongs to someone else. Then Jack shows up 4 years later. Ennis rushes down those stairs and kisses him with a desperation that tells you everything. And Alma is watching from the window. Her entire marriage collapses in that single moment. Every night Ennis seemed distant. Every cold shoulder and empty silence suddenly makes sense. Alma never confronts him directly. She carries that knowledge for years, watching Ennis leave on his so-called fishing trips, saying nothing. The anger builds silently until it finally erupts during one dinner where she lets him know she's always known.
Twist. Jack nasty.
The triangle destroys 3 people's chances at happiness. Ennis can't be with Jack because fear owns him. He can't be with Alma because he doesn't love her the way she needs. And Jack can't have the only man he's ever wanted because Ennis would rather be miserable and safe than risk living truthfully. The Unraveling. Freefall is a German film that drops you into the life of Mark, a police officer whose world looks exactly the way it's supposed to. Stable career, pregnant girlfriend Bettina, a future mapped out in straight lines. Then he meets Kay, a fellow officer at a training course, and every certainty starts to crack. It begins with jogging. They run together through the countryside, and there's this ease between them that Mark has never felt with anyone. It's not just attraction, it's recognition. With Kay, Mark doesn't have to perform. He doesn't have to be the version of himself everyone expects. The affair that follows is passionate and reckless. And Mark becomes a man living 2 completely separate lives. Bettina isn't a fool. She notices the unexplained absences, the emotional distance, the way Mark flinches when his phone rings. When she discovers the truth, she takes their newborn son and leaves, and Mark is left standing between 2 demolished worlds. Kay is facing homophobic violence from fellow officers. Bettina is gone. His parents have rejected him. What makes this triangle gut-wrenching is the timing. Mark isn't some restless bachelor exploring his options. He's about to become a father. Every stolen moment with Kay isn't just a betrayal of Bettina. It's a betrayal of the life growing inside her. By the end, Kay disappears without warning and Mark is alone, running ahead of his peers in training, outpacing everyone with nowhere to actually go. The triangle didn't just complicate his life, it dismantled it entirely. The tug of war. Shelter gives us Zach, a young artist from working-class San Pedro who has given up everything for his family. He's raising his nephew Cody because his sister Jean is unreliable. He's working dead-end jobs. He's buried his dreams of art school so deep he barely remembers having them. And he has Tori, an on-and-off girlfriend who represents the normal life everyone expects him to build. Then, Sean comes home. He's the older brother of Zach's best friend Gabe, openly gay, a writer, and everything Zach's world isn't. They bond over surfing, over art, over conversations that crack Zach open in ways Tori never could. One night, a playful wrestling match shifts into something else, and Sean kisses him. Zach freezes. Everything he thought he knew about himself splinters. What makes this triangle ache is that Tori isn't the enemy. She genuinely cares about Zach. When he eventually comes out to her, she tells him she always suspected. There's no rage, no betrayal scene, just a quiet understanding that she was holding a place in his life that was never really hers. But the real complication isn't choosing between Sean and Tori. It's choosing between Sean and his family. Jean is homophobic. She threatens to take Cody away if Zach stays with Sean. Zach has to decide whether pursuing love means losing the nephew he's raised like a son. The triangle expands beyond romance into this impossible negotiation between desire, duty, and identity. Zach doesn't just have to choose who to love, he has to choose who to be. The power play. The favorite turns the love triangle into a battlefield where intimacy is strategy and affection is currency. Queen Anne is lonely, ill, and desperate for connection. Sarah Churchill is her lover and confidant who manages the queen and the country with equal ruthlessness. Their relationship is built on years of genuine intimacy, but Sarah makes a fatal mistake. She assumes Anne needs her more than she needs Anne. Then Abigail arrives. Destitute and desperate, she realizes proximity to the queen means power. She tends to Anne's ailments, listens without judgment, makes Anne feel desired rather than managed. And slowly, she starts replacing Sarah in the queen's bed and affections. Sarah sees the manipulation and fights it, but overplays her hand with threats. Abigail escalates from flattery to sabotage. Anne, caught between the woman who loves her honestly but harshly and the woman who flatters her carefully but falsely, chooses comfort over truth. By the end, Abigail has won the position but lost any pretense of feeling. Sarah has been banished, and Anne is left with a companion who doesn't love her. Everyone got what they wanted and nobody got what they needed. The acceptance. In 1971, John Schlesinger made a film decades ahead of its time. Sunday Bloody Sunday follows a gay doctor named Daniel and a divorced woman named Alex, both involved with the same young bisexual artist, Bob. Both of them know about each other. This isn't a triangle built on deception, it's built on compromise. Daniel and Alex tolerate sharing Bob because having part of him feels better than having none. Bob is young, beautiful, careless with people's feelings in the way that only someone who has never truly been hurt can be. The complication is the slow, corrosive realization that what you're willing to settle for says more about you than the person you're settling for. Daniel accepts the arrangement because as a gay man in 1970s London, options feel limited. Alex accepts it because she's terrified of being alone. When Bob leaves for New York, Daniel delivers a monologue directly to the camera admitting that something imperfect was still better than nothing. The triangle ends with two people sitting alone in their apartments, wondering if they wasted their time loving someone who would never fully love them back. The impossible geometry. The half of it constructs a triangle where every line connects to the wrong person. Ellie Chu is a shy, brilliant teenager who secretly has feelings for the beautiful Astor Flores. Paul Munsky is a sweet football player who has a massive crush on Astor but can't string together a decent sentence. He hires Ellie to write love letters on his behalf. Ellie pours her real feelings into words that Paul takes credit for. Astor falls for the person in those letters, someone who understands her deeply, but she thinks that person is Paul. Meanwhile, Paul develops feelings for Ellie through their collaboration, and Ellie is falling deeper for a girl she can never openly pursue in their small conservative town. Nobody is the villain. Paul is genuinely kind. Astor is genuinely searching. Ellie is genuinely trapped. When the truth comes out, nobody gets the conventional ending. But Ellie does kiss Astor, and that kiss isn't a resolution.
I'll see you in a couple years.
It's a beginning. The triangle taught all three that real connection requires honesty, even when honesty costs you the thing you want most. The unrequited devastation. Gus Van Sant's masterpiece gives us one of the most heartbreaking triangles in cinema through a story about street hustlers in Portland. Mike Waters is a narcoleptic young hustler desperately in love with his friend Scott Favor. Scott is the mayor's son, slumming through street life as rebellion before he inevitably claims his inheritance. Mike knows Scott is passing through while he's stuck there permanently, but he can't stop loving him. There's a campfire scene that destroys you. Mike tells Scott he loves him, trembling, laying everything bare. Scott responds with gentle rejection. He can care for Mike, but only so much. The asymmetry is devastating. Then Scott meets Carmela in Italy and falls into an effortless romance that provides the respectability his inheritance requires. He abandons Mike entirely. At his father's funeral, Scott walks past Mike without acknowledgement. The boy he shared everything with on the streets doesn't exist in his new life. The triangle isn't two people competing for one. It's one person loving someone who was always going to leave, and a third person who represents the life that was always going to win. Mike is left on the road alone, collapsing into sleep in the middle of nowhere. The disruption. Set in conservative Georgian traditional dance, And Then We Danced follows Merab, a dedicated dancer who has trained his whole life. He has a girlfriend, Mary, who is patient and supportive and represents the future everyone expects. Then Irakli arrives at the dance company. Rebellious, talented, magnetic, their rivalry quickly becomes something else. The tension between them starts feeling less like competition and more like desire. Mary notices the shift before Merab admits it, the way his energy changes when Irakli is in the room. She can feel Merab pulling away without having a name for why. Merab's awakening happens in a world where queerness is genuinely dangerous. Georgian culture is deeply traditional. When Merab finally acts on his feelings, he's not just choosing a person, he's choosing to destroy the life he's built. Mary represents safety. Irakli represents truth. The film asks whether those two things can ever coexist. The ghost. The cakemaker constructs a love triangle where one point is dead. Thomas is a German baker who was having an affair with Oren, an Israeli man who traveled to Berlin for business. When Oren dies in a car accident, Thomas travels to Jerusalem and finds his way into the life of Anat, Oren's widow. She doesn't know who Thomas is. She doesn't know he was her husband's lover. Thomas starts working at Anat's cafe. He bakes for her, becomes part of her world, her son's world. An intimacy develops between them that neither expected. She's drawn to something in him she can't name, something that feels like recognition without understanding why. The dead man is still the most powerful presence. Thomas loves Anat because she was part of Oren. Anat is drawn to Thomas because he carries something of Oren without her knowing it. Every connection between them is built on deception and grief and unconscious recognition. The complication isn't betrayal. It's the impossibility of loving someone's entire life when you only ever knew one secret half of it. The weapon. Before they built The Matrix, the Wachowskis built this. Bound is a neo-noir thriller where the love triangle is a heist mechanism. Violet is the girlfriend of Caesar, a violent mob money launderer, trapped in a gilded cage. Then Corky moves in next door. She's an ex-con, tough and openly gay. The attraction is immediate and electric. What starts as a passionate affair becomes a criminal conspiracy. They plan to steal $2 million from Caesar and frame him. The triangle isn't about Violet choosing between lovers. It's about using her position inside one relationship to escape with the other. Caesar is terrifying because he's smart. When the money disappears, he doesn't just rage, he investigates. Every scene becomes a chess match where one wrong move means death. What makes this triangle brilliant is trust. Corky has to trust that Violet's feelings are real and not manipulation. Violet has to trust Corky won't abandon her when things get dangerous. The audience has to sit with the possibility that Violet might be playing everyone. The triangle resolves in blood and money, but underneath the genre mechanics is a love story about two women who risked everything to stop being other people's possessions. The experiment. Largely forgotten, Threesome throws 3 college roommates into a sexual and emotional centrifuge and watches what spins out. Alex is a woman assigned to a male dormitory by error. She's paired with Stuart, a literary intellectual, and Eddie, an uninhibited charmer. The triangle forms quickly. Stuart is attracted to Eddie. Eddie is attracted to Alex. Alex is attracted to Stuart. Nobody wants the person who wants them. They try to solve it the way young people do. They drink too much, talk endlessly, and eventually end up in bed together hoping physical proximity will resolve emotional incompatibility. It doesn't. Stuart still aches for Eddie. Eddie still wants Alex. Alex still reaches for Stuart. The triangle is painfully honest about how desire works. You can't negotiate your way out of wanting the wrong person. You can't logic your way into feelings you don't have. By the end, Stuart leaves to pursue a life where he can be honest about who he's attracted to. Eddie and Alex drift apart because they were only connected through Stuart. The triangle proves that sometimes the people who understand you best are still the wrong people to love. Which love triangle hit you the hardest? Which one felt the most realistic? Drop your thoughts in the comments.